Well, before we go, the real agenda of the Labor Party is unfolding. Beware the push to reduce the voting age to 16 and let thousands and thousands of migrants into the country in the certain hope that the migrants and the 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds will thank Labor for their generous spirit and vote for them. You see, that's why political parties dish out your money and rack up debt. It's called buying votes. The tactic failed the Perrottet government in New South Wales. It'll fail the Albanese government so long as we wake up. Mark my words, you've got the Finance Minister, Katie Gallagher, trying to make you believe that in next week's budget the government will, quote, claw back billions of dollars, unquote. And as she says, we'll continue to hunt for savings. Sounds good, doesn't it? Well, let's have a look at one example. Hunting for savings. The Prime Minister was heckled last Sunday as he tried to hold a press conference in Hobart about his plan to throw $240 million of your money into a new AFL stadium, a football stadium in Hobart. Here was Albo growing hairs rapidly on his chest, Big Brother government in Canberra, helping to pave the way for Tasmania, whom I love, to enter the AFL. Here we are in debt, no money for cost of living relief, but Albo gives a Hobart stadium $240 million. The protesters disrupted proceedings with banners and signs which said, "We want affordable housing, not a stadium." Another one said, "Priorities, Albo, please." But Albo argued the protesters were part of our great democracy. Well, let's have a look at that great democracy in Tasmania, where Albo has chucked another $240 million. Tasmania's population of 571,000, you've got to say it slowly, 571,000, is half the size of Adelaide. The whole of Tasmania, half the size of Adelaide. Now remember, Adelaide, as you know, is not South Australia. Adelaide's just Adelaide. Population, twice that of the whole of Tasmania. But Tasmania has 5 members in Canberra in the House of Representatives, 12, I repeat, 12 in the Senate. It's got 25 members in the Tasmanian government's lower house. It's got 15 members in the Tasmanian government's upper house. So, forgetting local government for a moment, Tasmania has 60 members of parliament in the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the Tasmanian lower house and upper house. 60. That averages a member of parliament for every 9,500 Tasmanians. This must be the democracy that Albo was talking about. At the last federal election, the average size of an electorate was 113,000. Tasmania have an MP for every 9,500 men, women and children. And then on top of that, 29 local government authorities. And the Finance Minister says the federal government's trying to claw back billions of dollars. Yet there are also 29 local government areas in Tasmania, on top of 60 members of parliament, with a Tasmanian population of a piddling 571,000. You can drive around the state, the territory, Tasmania, whatever you call it, in a day. The Premier down there's on over 300,000, a Minister on about 250. The Mayor of Launceston, population 87,000, he's on over 120 grand. Just think of the cost of Albo's so-called democracy. But you see, Tasmanians are not silly. They see the gravy train everywhere. In the last local government census, there were 263 councillor vacancies for local government positions, 263. There were 482 candidates. There were 29 mayoral vacancies, but there were 91 candidates. There were 29 deputy mayoral vacancies. There were 143 candidates. You see, everyone wants a ticket on the gravy train. If Albo thinks the protesters opposing $240 million for an Australian rules stadium in Hobart were about democracy at work, how does he describe the so-called democracy of Tasmania? With a population of 571,000, 60 members of parliament, state and federal, 60, one for every 9,500 man, woman and child, and 29 local government areas where you can rake in up to $120,000 for being a mayor. Now, I've got nothing at all against Tasmania or Tasmanians, but if the Albanese government is talking about waste, he ought to be saying to the Tasmanian government, well, you're hopelessly overrepresented with politicians. Cut some of that stuff back before you start asking for another $240 million from the taxpayer.